Mustafa, you're in a button up.
See what I know.
I said you're in a
I
button
know.
up. This
I
is
know.
so
So
different.
you can see I came from work. Here's the thing,
Mm,
though. I will not wear a tie unless something substantial in the world actually changes. Um, and I made up my mind I wasn't going to wear a tie for sure once George Floyd, once that happened. And
mm,
interesting enough, I sent out a communication to folks that I would not wear a tie anymore. And the thing is that George Floyd's brother, when he was testifying before Congress, he said all he could hear his brother saying is, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." He says, and I can't even wear a tie anymore. He said that.
mm,
And I've always seen and wondered about a tie, especially a necktie. I've seen it as a symbol of a yoke, as a noose. And
yeah.
I've always wondered, why do people wear ties? And interestingly enough, Olivia, several African nations who are members of the United Nations who are um, finally beginning to position themselves as independent nations and no
Mm,
longer depending on the Western world, said that one of the things that they would no longer do is wear the European uniform. They said they would no longer wear ties.
yeah.
And I just find it really, really interesting. What if people just decided not to wear a necktie anymore? That alone would cause such a cultural revolution
I
because it's
know.
a symbol throughout the world, especially once another uh, culture or nation becomes colonized, is that they take on the uniform of the European. They begin
Yeah.
to wear the shirt and tie thing. So I'm one of the few people, even at our events over at DJS, I don't wear a tie. Um,
Mm.
I've seen different events where folks have gone to and they said, "Oh, I have to speak," and I don't even have a tie. It's like a tie, and they say,
I've heard
"Why?"
that so many
Yeah,
times.
yeah, and I don't even have a tie. I recall when I used to work at Boston Five Savings Bank in Boston, Massachusetts, and our supervisor was taking us out to lunch. I can't remember the name of the restaurant, Maison Robert, I think it's what it's called, the House of Robert. It's a high-end restaurant. And when I went in,
Mm.
I had a tie, but I didn't have a jacket. And the guy said, I have to find you a jacket. I have to find you a jacket. Or he had to seat me in the back, this whole thing that you have to wear a certain thing. Um, so I just always found that interesting. So I don't, no, I don't wear a
Mm.
tie. And even when I wear a button down, usually I button my top. I don't know, it's something about the look. But yeah, coming from work, so I didn't change. So I have the
Mm.
the collar shirt, but I prefer banded collars, which is the more of the Indian type of shirt that
Oh,
doesn't have this.
yeah.
Yeah, it's called a banded collar.
Mm.
I like that look, and they were in Africa and the Middle East as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really even like collars for the same reason. They're collars, and and neckties to me they're nooses. They're nooses. I've always asked people, what's the point of a tie? And no one can ever say. It's like one of those things that people do, and people say, I just love a man in a tie. Like, why? What is that is appealing to you about a necktie? It is a necktie, for God's sake.
I mean, I don't I get I feel like as a woman in the workplace,
Mm-hmm.
don't get me wrong, take
Mm-hmm.
all of your privileges. If you don't want to wear a tie, don't wear a tie. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
not wear dress shoes and wear wallabies, do all that. You can get away
Mm-hmm.
with it. I don't think that I would have had I would have as much success in my career if I didn't
Mm-hmm.
show up looking a certain type of way
Right.
just
Right.
as a woman,
Right.
and so I think that we are, at least in the DMV, I think that we are um up to speed with black women's hair and the different
Yeah.
textures and styles and all
Yeah.
of that. But um I don't know. Like
Yeah.
even in
Yeah.
our previous position together, when we showed up to a partnership meetings downtown or at a different
Yep.
organization or agency or whatever, I had to put on my best. I don't know if you noticed,
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
always super feminine in a
Mm-hmm.
pencil skirt and for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's so weird, but I know that will seal the deal.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
For
Yeah.
unfortunately, but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah.
I know that will seal the deal. That will get people to say yes to our partnership and our scopes of work and workarounds and all. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I just, I've showed up to work wearing just whatever,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when I wear that, I get what I want, I get what we want, I get what we
Yeah.
need for
Yeah.
this
Yeah. And
partnership.
yeah, and in all fairness, I know that I can show up without a tie because of what I have achieved and where I am in terms of
Mm-hmm.
what I offer and what they want and what I bring to the table. I don't know that anybody else that I
Mm-hmm.
work with could do the same thing. Um, I answer to the secretary of the department. He answers to the governor, and it's
Yeah.
that's just how and it's because of what I bring to the table that I'm able to do that. I know. Um, because there's a work what do they call it, there is a dress code, there is a dress code there
Yeah.
which is professional or whatever, and that includes a tie. But I'm at a certain point where, are you going to not take advantages of my services or what I have to bring to the table because I
Mm-hmm.
will not wear a tie, or because of how I'm dressed.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a position that I can do that. I bring something unique. And I found out the other day, it never occurred to me, that I'm probably the first youth development professional that's posted to a position in a juvenile justice system in the country. There's no other place where they actually have on staff a person whose job is youth development proper.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's a unique, and I never thought of it that way, but it's a unique position.
I mean, it's an
And
accomplishment too.
yeah,
So
yeah,
congratulations
yeah,
on
yeah.
that,
Thank
right?
you.
You said it like it
It's
wasn't a
funny,
big deal.
but you see, that's the thing, Olivia. When you, and I was saying this to a friend of mine. I said, it's interesting that sometimes when we get to a certain place, we find out that where we are really isn't a place.
Mm-hmm.
It just really, it just really isn't. It really isn't a place. So you hear and you okay, there's no what is it? There's no fireworks, there's no fanfares,
Mm-hmm.
and except for the fact that you realize it or someone mentions it, you don't know necessarily the accomplishment because you really don't have
Mm-hmm.
anything to compare it to. And I think, and the good thing about it, I think the unique thing about it when we talk about, being one with the universe and manifesting and all this other kind of stuff, um, this position um, was made for me.
Yeah.
It was actually made for me to I think to be able to achieve something in life that was made for you. I'm not saying I did it. I'm saying that it's the result of everything that I've gone through and how I've been prepared and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I couldn't have planned it, but once you get there, you say, "Oh wow, no one else could have. This wasn't for anybody else. No one else could do this. This was,
Yeah.
and all of the things that people did in my favor and people did against me all led to this um to this point. So but yeah, that's my story. That's my shirt
Mm-hmm.
story and tie story. Interesting enough, the first thing I did um uh when I got my first pay was to go out and buy a couple more jackets because I have a lot of presentations and things,
Yeah.
that I have to do. So I did up the wardrobe a notch, but no
Mm-hmm.
tie. No tie. I think the only way I would wear a tie, and if I did, I have this African motif tie. It's almost like a kente tie that I love
Okay.
because of what it is. And I would wear that if there was, I don't know, some substantial change in the world culturally that would make me say, okay, I'll put on this tie.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't get past a noose. And every time I see
Exactly.
people,
I
I
don't
can't,
think
yeah, I
there's
can't
a
get,
I
yeah, I
don't
can't
think
get
there's
past it.
any cultural change up the
No,
universe's
no,
sleeve that can
no.
outdo the symbolism of a
Yeah, yeah, of a
will undo
necktie.
the
Yeah,
symbolism
yeah,
of a
yeah,
of a noose.
yeah, yeah. And
Um
and when I say that to people, a cognitive dissonant thing happens with them. It's like they pause for a moment and they be like, and then they switch back. It's like they dismiss it,
Mhm.
because I look good in my suit and tie. According to who? According to what standard? You know, um, and
Yeah.
true, I don't begrudge anybody that has to put on whatever uniform, or let me put it this way, whatever
Yeah.
costume that they have to put on in order to navigate this matrix. But I just think it's important that we do understand what it is. And when
Yeah.
we're in our own glory, in our own time, we dress according to who we really are,
Mhm.
so,
No,
so
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. I can't wait to get my measurements in. I want a whole closet. I'm a clothes person. I'm a fashion
Uh-huh.
person. I want
Hmm.
a whole closet of traditional wear,
Yeah.
traditional print. I want it to fit me perfectly. I want all that. I want all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
don't like when I have to go to Cameroonian settings and I don't have anything. And I'm not about to look like I'm not about to look like a, a, a ignorant American that just pulled out the most African thing in their closet, and I still don't look like nobody else. Like it's
Right.
just not worth it. Just wear your regular
It's
clothes,
mixing
child.
them, start mixing them to that, wearing
Mm-hmm.
the headdress from one place and the top from another place and the
Yeah.
skirt
Well,
from
luckily
somewhere
I would
else.
never make
Yeah.
that mistake because that's my educational background. So I would
Hmm.
never make that mistake. But I also, if I wear something, I want it to be from the place, like from
Yeah.
the source.
Hmm.
At least the fabric. It can be made
I
and
got it.
assembled
I got it.
here,
Yeah.
but by someone from the place, from the
Yeah.
source.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but yeah, like I said, this
Hmm.
it's weird seeing you in a button up, but I'm here for it. I am here for it. I'm here for all of the
uh,
um I'm here for all of the accomplishments. I I have a car and it's so
hmm.
funny because you said something. I don't feel fireworks. I
Uh,
don't know why. Like I'm
hmm.
not.
Hmm.
And just to give some context, I got my license. I got my permit a year and a half ago. I'm 30 years old. I got my
Hmm.
permit a year and a half ago. I got my DC license 2 months ago. And
Hmm.
I had to transfer it over to the Maryland license because the whole proof of residency, whatever, whatever. We talked about that.
Right.
So I've had my license for a little while, and for the longest, I've been wanting a car, especially since moving out to Maryland. I was like, I just need freedom. I need to be able to get around.
Mm.
It was easier to do that with Uber, but then with the kids and the baby and all of that, i'm not I'm not ordering Uber car seat like that.
Right.
That's just
Right.
crazy. So and mind you, the way that the it's so crazy because people will tell you it really is about the journey, it's not about the
Hmm.
destination. So my
Right.
story isn't around the car. Everything happened so perfectly for
Mm.
this car, Mustafa. Like after everything went to shit at first.
Uh-huh.
So, like this whole thing was a leap of faith. So
Hmm.
basically, my grandmother, um, she's just getting older, and I want
Hmm.
her to spend more time with me. I want her to spend as much time with my newborn son,
Hmm.
as much as possible. So on a whim, I just bought, and I was so proud of this. I bought a first class ticket for November 20th. No turning back. We're going to go down there. You're going to meet grandma. We're going to see her. And then it just dawned on me like, and I'm going to buy a car while I'm down there.
Okay.
And in the midst of all of that, couldn't get my license. Like,
Mm.
still hadn't taken still hadn't taken the road test.
Mm.
I I had, I think I bought the ticket around the time that I had, that I was only halfway done with driving school. Like it was
Hmm.
all a leap of faith. It all
Hmm.
required perfect timing. But
Hmm.
Mustafa, you know me. When I say
Hmm.
I'm gonna do something,
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
I'm gonna do it, right? And so
Yep.
I was like, and I'm gonna get a car. I'm gonna go down to North Carolina, and I'm not coming back until I have a car. I'm driving me and my baby back.
Mm.
And so got the ticket on the whim, bought the ticket, finished driving school, took the road test. I'm thinking that my license is gonna be here, 2 weeks before my flight.
Uh-huh.
Then run into I don't know,
Right.
typical
The
typical
residency,
political
yeah.
problems. I can't prove
Uh-huh.
I live where I live because I don't live there, but I need you
Yeah.
to think that I live there so I can get my documents from the
Yeah.
government, right? And so I was just like, I'm gonna be honest about this. I'm gonna be honest because at first I was in my mind. My daddy's genes are them heart genes real strong in me. I instantly start thinking of a
Mm.
story I could tell to get my
Uh,
license and go pick it up either from the post office or whatever, whatever. And I was literally calling the DMV and I was like, Olivia, stop! Like this path never works for you. Like you
right.
aren't the type of person that could have a lapse in integrity and things work out. Like
Right. Right.
you're not that type of person. There's other people that are in that group, not me.
Mm-hmm.
Can't do it, can't,
Mm-hmm.
won't do it. So I was like, so here's the thing. I called the lady at the DMV and I was like, here's the thing. I can't prove my residency. Like I did everything by the book, but now that it's time to get mailed to me, that's when everything expires. And that's why I
Mm-hmm.
tried to take my test early. And she was like, well, I can send you your driving record and you can go to the MVA and get your license. So I would have spent at least a week or two to execute a scheme to get my
Right.
license. But just
Right.
by being honest, she gave
Right.
me the answer that I needed to get everything worked out within a matter of a day or two.
Mm-hmm.
So, really thankful for that. So, I transfer my license, I get my temporary license, I get on the plane, and I go down to North Carolina. I'm thinking I'm going to take my sister's same route. So I went to the State Employees Credit Union to go get my loan because they have interest rates starting at 5.75%.
Oh
In this day
wow.
and age, that exactly unheard
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
So I go, I'm putting in my information. I already have an account with them, all that. I've had an account with them since I was 16 or
Mm-hmm.
maybe even younger. And then he runs the numbers. And again, I could have schemed, Mustafaa. I could have schemed
Mm-hmm.
and gave him my mom's address. But I
Mm-hmm.
was like, no, be honest, because this is your financing. You want to make sure you have all your ducks in a row.
Right.
And they determined that I was outside the lending area.
Uh,
So then I'm looking at cars without any financing other than what the crappy dealer is going to give me. The crappy
right.
dealer, not the crappy dealer,
I know what you
the
mean. I know
crappy
exactly what you mean. Yeah.
financing that the dealership is going
It's
to
going
give
going to get
me.
it right. Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I got what is it? I had to have a reality check because my credit score says one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but then my credit report says another.
Uh-huh.
And so
Mm-hmm.
I've only been tracking, I'm still learning to adult. I've only been tracking the credit scores. I'm like, credit score,
Right.
good. We good. We good. We good. I go
Right.
look at my credit report and I have things on there from when I was young and dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Why 7 years? Like, why 7 years?
Why
I,
is 7 years a thing?
yes, like, why are you freezing me 7 years ago? I'm not even the same person I was last year, two
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
7 years? Do you know how ridiculous I was 7 years ago?
That's a universal thing. 7 days of the week, 7 years of bad luck, every 7 years, every cell in your body completely renews. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those universal divine number kind of things that they've kind of baked into society. 7
Mm-hmm.
years is the statute of limitations, that kind of thing. Yeah.
But I just feel like 7 years is not a natural cycle for evaluating financial
It's not.
behaviors.
It's not at
Okay.
all. It's not at
I just
all.
want to
No.
make sure that I'm not missing
Yeah.
some magic financial
No.
psychology.
Mm-mm.
So
Nope. Nope.
after I looked at my credit report, I had to have a realization like, you can't apply for what you think you can apply for.
Right.
Like,
Right.
I don't need any inquiries on my account trying to get a
Right.
certain, financing package that
Right.
my credit score says I can get. My credit score says maybe, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I was looking at cars. Things were good. I had a few nice cars. One car slipped through the crack, not slipped through the cracks. But it just wasn't, I didn't like it. I did not
Mm-hmm.
like it. All of the
Mm-hmm.
men in my life told me to get it. My
Mm-hmm.
partner told me to get it. My Uncle Johnny told me to get it. I have a childhood friend, Jahu, that was helping me. Shout out to Jahu. He should really he should really be a car buying consultant, honestly.
Mm.
Worked for GM
Mm.
Financial, works for CarQuest now, math, accounting whiz. And on top of that, knows everything about cars that a mechanic would know about cars.
Okay. Okay.
So I went down to North Carolina saying, I'm going to buy a RAV4 because Jahu said to buy a
Mm-hmm.
RAV4. Getting the RAV4, a nice car, a little bit more than I wanted to pay for it, but it would have paid back in lack of maintenance and all that good
Right.
stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
all the men said, get the RAV4. It'll be you'll be happy you get the RAV4, get the RAV4. I didn't like it. I did not like
Mm-hmm.
it. And I was trying to like it because everyone told me that I should like it.
Right.
And so when it sold, first of all, I had a weirdo salesman that faked and videoed a test drive and sent it to me.
Oh wow.
Luckily, my black woman spidey sense kicked in because when I
Mm-hmm.
test drove the car, he specifically said, "Black women go through too much. We shouldn't be this observant.
Yeah.
People shouldn't
Yeah.
try to trick us as much as they do." But anyway, he put a temporary license plate in there and said, "We have to do this for all the cars. It's policy. You can't be on the road without a license plate." And so then the next day he basically pulled the whole, I don't know, someone's test driving it right now. I need an answer soon, yada yada yada. And he
Mm-hmm.
sends and he's saying this in a video while he's videoing the car being driven through the parking lot. And I'm like, oh, first of all, that was an ass move. Just
Right.
sell the car. Just sell the
Right.
car and inform me that the car has been sold. But
Exactly.
on top of that, I zoom in and I'm like, there are no temporary plates on this car.
Right.
Like,
It's not going off the lot. Right.
no one's test driving this
Right.
car other than
Right.
your colleague.
Right.
I just realized how I just wasn't equipped. I just was not
Right.
financially equipped to maneuver this process fully in a
Mm-hmm.
predictable way, right?
Right. Right.
So that fell through, and then yeah, that was all happening. Mind you, I was trying to get excused from jury duty too. I did
Oh
not have a
wow.
flight back to DC. I had not bought a car yet. My excuse was due for jury duty. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm either going to have to pay an arm and a leg to get a flight back home
Mm-hmm.
with this child. I doubt it's going to be a first class flight, which was oh so comfortable on the way down. I'm about to be in
Uh-huh.
coach with a baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a lot was happening. So fast forward, a beautiful day happened. My sister told me about this credit union down in Greensboro, North Carolina. They have one branch. It's a small
Mm-hmm.
credit union. So I went there. I applied for their financing. I hadn't gotten a response yet. And then I applied for that financing and I got approved to be dismissed from jury duty. So that happened all in one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then later that night, a car came up and it was less than what I wanted to pay.
Mm-hmm.
A 2015 Ford Edge with 39,000 miles that had been
Wow.
prepped by the dealership.
Wow.
But mind you, I still got my financing. She just asked for my proof of insurance and all this stuff. And I'm low key waiting to get denied. And
Mm-hmm.
so my mom dropped everything for her career that day. Shout out to her. And we're pulling out the driveway to go see this car about an hour and a half away. While we're pulling out the driveway to go see the car, I look at my email and I got approved for the
Wow.
financing. So
Uh-huh.
everything happened the way it was supposed to happen. And on top of that, I was gonna get a Kia, but then that Kia didn't have it. I liked the Kia. I don't care what nobody
Mm-hmm.
said. It was a nice car. I really
Uh,
liked it. It was a Kia Sportage, black on black on black. I
mm-hmm.
test drove it at night, so the ambient light came. It was cute, but Kia boys got the premium super high for the insurance,
Uh-huh.
and they weren't going to insure the car because it didn't have a specific software that would have prevented theft. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Too much
Mm-hmm.
stuff was going on with that car,
Right.
and it was right at my budget, like right at what
Okay.
I was willing to pay. So I was like, no, 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 no. So I went out, got it, and the crazy thing is, I got my car from the same place that my dad got his car back in the day,
Wow.
like Lee's
Wow.
Auto Group or something like that in Cary, North Carolina. So
That's wild.
everything happened perfectly and beautifully. And I do believe that it's because, first of all, I made up my mind. I put the energy out there and then I just did. Like, no matter
Mhm.
how hard it got,
Mhm.
no matter what,
Mhm.
like, I just
Mhm. Mhm.
worked towards the goal. So
Yeah.
I smile when I think about the journey, but now that I have the car, I don't have like any like
Right.
butterflies. Like,
Ah, but the
but
universe just conspired on your behalf,
I
and there's
know, right?
no doubt about it. That's the thing about it. When
Yeah.
it does it, it does it in such a way that you have no doubt about it.
Hmm.
The way things just kind of fell in place because you couldn't make anything happen, but everything happened in your favor, and
Yeah.
that's the way. And it clearly happened the way it wanted to happen.
Hmm.
So that's
And
excellent.
And you know what's so crazy? I was in the car with my sister the night before all this stuff went right. And I
Mm,
still hadn't got approved to not show up to jury duty. Still hadn't bought a car. Still hadn't been confirmed for financing. And I was just like, I literally was crying in the car. I'm like, this is just too much.
uh-huh,
Because everyone knows what
mhm,
happens if you don't show up for jury duty. And it don't
mhm.
happen. You don't get arrested. You don't go to jail.
No, but it does
Immediately, but
happen.
it's not
No,
good.
no, oh, not immediately, but it does because I have not
Yeah.
shown up, and I did
Mhm.
get a summons to,
Really?
yeah,
To do
and so
hearing, right? Like a cause hearing?
no, actually, you get a summons which says that um, you failed to show up and you have to pay a fine, or there's jail time for a certain period of
Yeah.
time. In order to avoid it, you just have to show up for jury duty for another session of jury
Mhm.
duty, at least here in the district. Yours is in Maryland.
No, mine was in DC, and I'm like, I told him I'm
Oh,
not a DC resident, like
oh, so yeah, you should have been excused.
exactly, and I was really upset because, like, I'm not a DC resident, so you won't give me my license that I
Right, right,
earned rightfully.
right. But we gonna get you on jury duty, right?
And a Maryland restaurant, but you're still making me come back to the district to serve. Like, I was just like,
Yeah,
this is so backwards. And my whole thing is like, I can't go to jail. Like, I
right,
go to jail.
right,
Not like
right,
that don't even match anything about
right.
my life path. Okay. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
it just was so out of place. And so I
yeah,
literally like was crying in the car because it was just too much. And I was just like, I just
yeah.
did all of this and it feels like for nothing. Like driving school, road test, transferring everything, like buying a first class ticket, coming down here on a whim. I brought my baby. Like, it was just like, all this can't be for nothing. Like, it just can't. And my sister was like, just, one thing that I do is like when I get into these positions, a lot of times, as soon as you release it,
Yep.
it works its way out. She was like,
Yeah.
and we in the South, black people just give it to God. Just
Yeah.
give it to. And my whole thing,
Yep.
I don't want to hear no religious advice when I'm in a crisis. That's just gonna make me upset. But that's what I mean. I couldn't help it. I cried in that car. I released it. I don't know if I gave it to God or if He just took it, but I released it and
Well,
it
it's the
worked
same
out.
thing. That's what it
Yeah.
is. The people, to me, they use there's like different terminology, mojo and stuff. I'll never forget, but I still think it's the same thing. And what I'm saying is this:
Hmm.
I'll never forget when I was studying with the Nation of Islam many, many years ago. I remember, and I told my mother that I was going to embrace Islam and I was going to join the Nation of Islam, become a black Muslim. And she would just say, she said, all I know is that all my life, she said, that Jesus worked for me. I
Hmm.
prayed to Jesus and that worked for me. Everything worked out. And so when I went to the temple that Friday, what I said, Brother Minister, I just share something. My mother said all her life, Jesus, she called on Jesus and Jesus worked for you. And he said, brother, do you think God would not bless you or would remove his blessings from you simply because you
Hmm.
don't know his name? Now, when he said that to me, a whole thing opened up that I don't even think he
Yeah.
realized opened up. And that's when I came to understanding that it is people's belief. It's not necessarily their religion or who they call on or whatever. It is actually their belief that commands the universe.
Mm,
And when you actually just release the ego and that part of you that wants to be in control, that's trying to make things happen, and allow the universe, then the universe does what it's going to
mm-hmm,
do, which you have commanded it to do. So, in a way, that's letting go and let God. You see what I'm saying? So, someone's tied
mm,
to a particular faith would say, to, well, that's just God. But no matter who you believe or what you believe, that's how the universe, in terms of universal laws, works as far as I'm
mm,
concerned. Like for a long time, my mother belonged to this church, and you know, what was it, Evangel Temple, and they were in the news for all kinds of scandalous things of how they were treating people and getting money, raising money for people, da da da. And my
mm,
mother said, "But I don't care." She said, "I still get the word and everything." And it occurred to me one day, I said, "Ma, the reason you get the word from this man is because all 3,000 people in your membership have commanded that he be able to give them some truth of God. So it's not him, it's the 3,000 of you that believe." And as soon as he got really full of himself as a person and ego and everything began to fall apart. But prior to
mm,
that, when people believed and trusted and gave all of their trust and everything, he was able to do something in terms of guide them. But it wasn't him doing it. It was their faith in the universe that empowered him to do that. So I just have a different understanding of
mm-hmm.
things, of what's really, really, really happening. So people
Yeah.
want to argue, no, it's the name of Jesus. No, it's the name of Allah. No, no, it's the universe and your belief, and that's
Mm-hmm.
making it happen. At least that's where I stand on it, and that's why different religions work for different people. And it's not a competition. The only competition is in your ability to command what you believe in,
Yeah.
and to make things happen for you. And that's where the real magic is. And like your sister said, as soon as you let go and said, okay, let me get out of the way. I've already
Mm-hmm.
said what I want to happen. You planned it a long time ago. You put all your ducks in a row. You've already said it. And as soon as you get out of the way, then everything just says, okay, I'm going to show you. And then everything just kind of falls in
It
place.
really did. It
Yeah.
really, and that's how my life works anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
Mustafa, like pretty much my whole story. That's really
Mm-hmm.
is how my life always works. Like at
Mm-hmm.
the
Yep.
very last minute, just when you think it's over, just when the curtains have closed,
Yep. Yep.
everything opens back up,
Yep.
and Olivia gets what she wants. um, yeah. No, that's real. That's real.
Mhm. So you
Oh,
ended up with what? What vehicle did you end up with?
I ended up with a 2015 Ford Edge,
Okay, okay.
39K miles,
Yeah, yeah.
clean. Like it
Uh,
looks and smells brand new,
mm-hmm.
nice, and it has more features than I thought a 2015 would have.
Uh-huh.
Like I have Bluetooth, push to
Mm-hmm.
start. What is it? I don't know. I have a lot of stuff, but
Uh-huh.
I was telling my friends down south, Jahu and LeBrian, they were cracking up. But I told them like I ain't even tripping over this car because Arthur gonna buy me a Porsche next,
Right?
and that's my next. That's my next. See,
Right?
we
Yep.
we
Already.
speaking
Already.
everything into existence. Just like I said, I was gonna come
Mm-hmm.
down here and I wasn't gonna come back to talk about that happened. I'm not
Yep.
even tripping over
Yep.
this car
Yep.
because I'm like I didn't want to make a because I'm real quick to make a black ass decision. I didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
do this with the car because this is the car. This when you make a decision like that, like I'll ball out on some clothes, a night out, something, things that I could recover from.
Right.
If I made an unwise decision in the vehicle that I purchased, that
Mm-hmm.
ruins a lot.
A
Like
lot
that
of stuff,
changes
yeah.
my everyday spending allowance, that
Yeah.
changes my
Yeah.
my monthly budget, that pushes out home ownership. I want to go back to school, get a PhD. So I was like, Olivia, like I know you got the urge, even me. I was
Mm-hmm.
about to spend I was about to get the Kia that I wanted was a few $1,000s more than the car that I ended up with. And
Mm-hmm.
realistically, a Ford that's
Mm-hmm.
really good and well taken care of is going to do me better
Yeah. Yeah.
than
Yeah.
even a new Kia. Like
Yeah.
it just wasn't a wise decision. So I was just like, Olivia, like fight the urge, fight the
Yeah.
urge, get
And
something
speaking
smart.
speaking of black ass decisions, that brings us to our curse word for the day,
I know.
right?
I
This
know.
week's curse word, which is credit.
I know.
Credit, credit.
That is so funny because my and this I know I can turn this off, but my credit card will jump up my credit line. And
Uh-huh.
every single time when it jumps up, I'm like, they done do this. I'm going to Cancun. They done did this to the wrong. I'm gonna be in Dubai on a camel, okay? Like I might put a down payment down in the motherland. Like y'all done did this to the wrong person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Credit. Whew. That is a hell of a curse word. That is a hell of a
Uh-huh.
curse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not
Mm-hmm.
even just credit cards. Like we have normalized people using credit to survive. Like even the most successful people, the people that we look up to, their life is on credit. Car is not paid
Mm-hmm.
off, house isn't paid off, your education, what you put in your brain isn't paid off.
Yep.
Like it's just and it's normal. Like it's normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
think that's I mean, even the fact that I have to go register my vehicle so it can belong to someone else. So it can
Exactly.
belong to the state. So they can
Exactly.
dangle it over my head should I not abide by their rules. Like,
Exactly. And basically we live in a society where everything is credit. We
mhm,
don't own anything. We everything is on lend from someone, and we continue
mhm,
paying them for. Um, I know when we first encounter credit. I mean, my first encounter of credit, of course, was with my mom getting credit. You know, to be able to get things that we needed, not even things
mhm.
that extra whatever, but and so many of us have to get credit, live off credit, grew up with
Yeah,
credit and end up with bad credit, and um, uh, but just for us to be able to survive, being able to I remember my mom, because she raised six of us as a single mom. Um, I remember there was a store that she used to go and she used to get food on credit, and pay them later on that.
mhm,
But of course, when I grew up seeing this, seeing credit and seeing how she would get certain things off of credit, I immediately kind of internalized, well, if you don't have the money for it, at some point you can get credit. And when you first get credit, that idea that you can just go out and you can just get things and you
yeah,
don't have to pay for it immediately, just having things that you never had before, it kind of satisfies a certain uh, part of you that you can now have, basically, that you can now
yeah,
have things. Um, but it definitely is a curse. And when we now have kids that are born, at least when they go to college, they're born into the credit world with no choice. If you want to live, if
mhm,
you want to succeed, if you want to be successful, if you just want to stay alive, you've got to be able to navigate and
mhm,
get credit, which really just translates into debt. You know, but yeah, I just remember my mom being able to, and then I remember later on when things became due. I remember at one point, what was it? Our refrigerator and some other things had gotten repossessed,
mhm,
because we couldn't, she couldn't pay for it. I remember my sister opening up the door to someone, and my mother had left us in the house and told her, "Don't open this door for anybody." And she opened the door, and these guys came in and just, took the refrigerator. It was like so. But yeah, and I was just thinking about what you said about the car. I remember a guy told me many years ago. He said, you get this new car, you're so excited, you finally get the car. He said, and then the first month hits, you get that $400 note. And of course, this was like 30 years ago. So $400 was a lot for a note back then. He said, and then all of the joy had gone out of the having
Mm,
this new car when immediately. And like you said, if you make the wrong decision, it immediately affects everything else. The
exactly.
food you put on the table, your other bills, your um. But credit is it's a curse, but it's definitely a curse. I mean,
It is.
any
It's
way you
almost
look
like
at it.
it's almost like a drug, honestly,
Yeah,
because you're
yeah.
you're introduced to it and it's a high, right? Because the stakes
Mm-hmm.
are
Yep.
low. My first credit card, I think the line was 15, credit line was 1,500, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And at the time, even if I messed that up, it was only 1,500 in the
Right.
grand scheme of my debt to income ratio, in the grand scheme of my student loans and all of that stuff. But the thing about credit is like a drug. The longer you stay using credit, the longer you stay hooked on
Yeah.
credit, the
Yeah.
harder it is to get off of it,
Yeah.
and to because it's intertwined into your life. You have to dismantle so many things when it comes to credit. And I'm just even when I'm thinking of it, because my background is pre-law, and I'm pretty sure I'm getting the right law case. And you may have even heard about it, the Williams versus Walker Thomas furniture.
I knew you were going to say Walker Thomas. That's who possessed my mother's refrigerator. I
Okay,
knew you were
okay,
going to say Walker Thomas right here in
okay.
D.C. on 7th Street,
That
Georgia Avenue. Yes.
they on some bullshit. And just to
Yes.
give, damn, it's so
Yep.
weird because I studied this case
Yep. Yep.
back at
Yep.
Howard,
Yep.
and I never thought that I would be looking at someone who was directly affected by it.
Yep.
So
Yep.
you know how you learn about something and it's just kind of
Uh-huh.
so far away, and then in
Uh-huh.
this moment, it's like
Uh-huh.
boom, it's right in my
I was
face
going
in
to
the
try to
form
say it
of
before you said it, Walker Thomas. I
Millie.
knew. Yep. Yep.
Oh my
Yep.
god! So just to give some context, and Mustafa, correct me if I'm wrong, because I never went to law
Mm-hmm.
school, even though it ain't too late. But
Mm-hmm.
the this was a predatory contract,
Mm-hmm.
specifically for the Black community in DC.
Yep.
But it was
Yep.
kind of like rent a center. So you could go and
Mm-hmm.
you could do different payments on different furniture. So let's say
Yep.
I'll go get a dining room table, and that's $10 a month, right? And so it seems kind of harmless. $10 a month.
Right.
My family got a place to eat every night.
Yep.
It seems
Yep.
kind of harmless. So then you go lease out, a TV, and then a
Mm-hmm.
couch, and then a
Mm-hmm.
bed, and then a
Mm-hmm.
mirror.
Mm-hmm.
But the predatory clause in the contract was that if you miss one payment
One payment.
on one thing. So let's say
Yep.
for whatever reason, I messed up, didn't look at the books correctly. Like this is before auto pay and bill
Mm-hmm.
pay. I didn't pay that $10 that month. That means that they can come and take everything
Everything.
that's theirs at the end of the day
Yep.
because you have it on
Yep.
credit. So missing that one payment on that one dining room table
Yeah.
causes you to have a empty home
Yep.
overnight, and you
Yep.
still owe them for the rest
Yep.
of the
Yep.
term of that
For the
furniture
rest of the
lease.
term of the furniture, which they now can put in someone else's home. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm thinking of, and that's what happens all the time. So
Mm-hmm.
it may not be furniture um from the shifty store up the block on
Yeah.
Georgia Ave, but
Yeah.
it could be everything that you purchase on that credit card.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I mean, even
Absolutely.
when I bought my car, like I really thought that I was being responsible. My credit score is great, but
Mm-hmm.
that credit report, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why is this still on? But it's okay. I'm a boss up and clean it up.
Yeah.
But it's just we're so hooked on it. We're just
Yeah.
so hooked on, and it
Yeah.
really, especially Black people, because when you go, so like a vast majority of us know what it's like to not have something for so long, even if it's not our direct experience. So, for instance,
Right.
my parents did well by us. You know,
Mhm.
we grew up really, really well, privileged, wealthy, all that good stuff. But still within me, there's some fear that it's almost like it's like genetic coding, but like
Yeah.
everything could
Yeah.
get lost. Even though I
Yep.
don't even know what that feels like. I don't have the experience. Like I don't have the concept of a quote unquote, saving something for a rainy day. But
Right.
credit will have you just getting things just because it might go,
Hmm.
we might not have enough clothes for the kids. The kid's gonna grow overnight or something.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. It just feeds that
It's
energy of lack.
exactly, and everything is built on that. And when people do what they need to do just to survive, uh, it's really a matter of just trying to stay ahead of the game. Because if you fall behind in any way, shape, or form, I mean, you'll be severely penalized.
Mhm.
And for many people, credit is the only option. And
Yeah.
interestingly enough, today, they say the majority of people who are in the middle class who are suffering financially. And I know people who have come on and said, I make $80,000 a year, I make $100,000 a year, and I'm still living paycheck to paycheck.
Mhm.
A lot of people are surviving just off their credit cards. They
Yeah.
get paid, they pay off the credit card, and then they use that to pay their bills. They get paid again, and they pay off the credit card.
Mhm.
And that is the nature. That's the nature of the beast. And they do things in such a way that unless you are extremely wealthy, they configure in things like in terms of
Mhm.
salaries, in terms of what is it, the interest rate. They'll talk about the feds and the interest rate. All of that is manipulated. None of that is based in science. None of that's based in
Yeah.
fact. All of it's manipulated and is designed just to keep people in that traumatic state, just on the edge, just enough that you can continue to barely survive.
Yeah.
Um, and then, think about it. Think about this concept. If you don't pay on time, there's a late fee. Now, if you can't pay on time, there's a reason. So what happens is you get penalized on top of what you already owe because
Mhm.
you don't pay that on time, which in
Yeah.
turn makes you owe more. Okay, and then it makes it seem like you are, it's your fault. You're to blame.
Mhm.
If you couldn't have gotten credit, I mean, what are you going to do? Well, I could go out and I could carjack someone. I could go out and I could rob someone. I mean, you can't put people in a state of trauma and then expect that,
Yeah.
especially when you do it in such, like you say, in such a predatory way. I was late
Mhm.
coming on here tonight because I was trying to pay a bill. Community is the name of the company, and it was due today. And so I went to pay it, and when I went to pay it, it says if the payment is not received by 5 o'clock, it's late. Nowhere did I see that. Nowhere has it said that. If a due date is a due
Mhm.
date, it should be the due date. But again, this is another one of those predatory companies that has taken over Dell credit. And if it's not paid by 5 o'clock, then it's considered late. So I, called someone and it had a big fuss about that. And, um, I just had to kind of submit to it. And the only way I can really overcome this is just to pay the entire balance off before it's due, so I don't.
Mhm.
It's in order to avoid interest. But again, it's not about people; it's about money, and it's about putting people in a certain circumstance, a
Yeah.
situation where they really can't afford to pay it. Nothing is done
Mhm.
in a way that makes it easy or simple or even makes it fair. You can call it a Fair Credit Act or whatever.
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things that when we get caught up in, because it's the last element that we can turn to in order to survive. And then once that gets ruined, like you said, 7 years just on any individual incident. If you got more than one credit account over a span of 7 years, then you multiply
Mhm.
each thing by 7 years, you could go on your entire life and become a senior
Yeah.
before you have any inkling of having anything cleared up. And you put on top of that things like student loans, which most people have just in order to survive. Most
Yeah.
people, I think we have $1 trillion a country in this country of citizens that have been indebted by this government, um, just for the sake of money,
Yeah.
in a society where really all education should be free. If we are a
Mm.
civilized society, why are we not educating everyone in order to raise the quality of life for every single citizen? Why do people have to pay in order to be quote unquote educated, in order to work and become slaves again for the rest of their life? And again, society in and of itself never really advances. So, yeah, it is. I mean, it's a curse in the worst way.
It
Um,
is. And I honestly think the most painful part about credit is that it forces you to beat up on yourself. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
set up in a way that the average person cannot get it right.
right, right,
And when you don't get it right, you have agreed in yourself that it's because you haven't cracked some sort of behavioral code,
yeah,
that
yeah.
you're out here being irresponsible,
Irresponsible, yeah,
negligent, um, that you're indulging. And these same people have these thoughts. And when they look around in reality, they don't got shit,
right,
like
right, right,
you don't
right,
got nothing. We all live in
right,
the same neighborhood with the same condition of furniture, with the same car that might or might not start. Like, what did you really overindulge in?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's set up against you, and people say, you know, people, especially financial experts, mainly white
mm-hmm,
men, try to
yeah,
make it seem like if you can crack the code, you can make credit a positive thing, and this, that, and the third. But
yeah,
there's just a certain energy that's different when you work, save, earn, and purchase
yeah,
something. And those
yeah,
same financial experts and people that are billionaires, those same Dave Ramseys, they got their success because they tapped into that energy, not the
right,
energy of credit and being
right,
smart and this, that, and the third. These people built something and then they got wise with it. They didn't
yeah,
try to they didn't try to
yeah,
crack a code while not having anything. And
yeah,
even when I think back at my car purchase, I put about 30% of the car value down just up
mm-hmm,
front because I didn't want to
mm-hmm,
take out a larger loan, a debt
right,
income ratio, all that good stuff. And
yeah,
I'm telling you, Mustafa, I was hype. Like I was
mm-hmm,
hype when I got approved for financing. Don't get me wrong, that wasn't none my
mm-hmm,
guy, right?
right, right,
But to be able to swipe my card and put a debit pin at the dealership to pay off a third of the vehicle's cost, that was a different
yeah,
energy. That's,
yeah,
and so the financing, that's luck, that's favor, that's me, getting back from the universe what I put out and emit every day, just being the
exactly,
person that I am. But
yeah,
what's going to get me what I want, the type of lifestyle that I want, where I want to get in life, that's the energy of the debit card swipe, that you
yeah,
you
yeah,
you
exactly,
saved this money, you put this to
yeah,
the side, you didn't know what you were going to spend it on, but you knew you needed a lump sum for something important. Like, that's the energy of billionaires and millionaires. Don't let
yeah,
them preach this whole credit card stuff to us
yeah,
that they
yeah,
probably benefit from
mm-hmm,
anyways.
mm-hmm,
um
absolutely, yeah.
yeah.
And that's not even to talk about the people on the other side that make you feel guilty, the debt collectors, the repo people, the people who benefit, the whole industry that benefits over the fact that you're in debt and you can't pay
Hmm.
it back. Um, there are certain jobs. I think it's in the Buddhist faith or whatever. One of their eightfold path. One of it says, "Do not take jobs that are harmful to people."
Hmm.
And there's certain positions, like if you want to be a debt collector, and when debt collectors call you, and the way they hound you and the way they talk to you and the way they harass you,
Hmm.
and I'm sure many of those people have debt themselves, you know,
Yeah.
because if you got that kind of job, just like people who, parking enforcement, these jobs where your job is to harm people or to
Mm-hmm.
hurt people. Um, and then I always think about, look at their lives, and what the universe does. But again, it's there's nothing pretty about it. It's not set
Mm-hmm.
up to be pretty, and they get ugly people to help
I was just about to say
because, yeah,
what I didn't know if you wanted this out on the
right.
air. I was like, I will never forget Mustafa said, "Ugly people do ugly jobs,"
Do ugly jobs.
and
I have never
ain't
seen an
that the truth?
attractive. Yep, yep. You hardly see an attractive parking enforcement person, Or I remember they had this television series. I think his name was Dog or whatever. He was a repo
Mm-hmm.
guy, and you know what his family looked like. Um, but yeah, but people who
No,
do
you're
ugly,
absolutely, and I know
who
we're
do
gonna
ugly
offend so
jobs.
many
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
I've never, had a tit for tat with a police officer in the middle of it, be like,
Mhm.
damn, this nigga look like Morris Chestnut. Like,
Right.
never.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
and I
But
didn't even
yeah.
realize that was the truth until you said it. And
Mhm.
whenever I
Mhm.
encountered someone
Mhm.
that was in their position doing their day shift, it's just
Yep.
like, damn, this person is ugly as hell. Like
Yep.
Mustafa,
Yep.
you done.
Yep.
That's a generational curse, or that
It
quote, because
is. Yep.
I can't unsee it every single time I'm
Yeah.
offended by someone who is just doing their job. And the
Yeah.
people that
Doing their
say like I'm
job
just
right.
doing my job,
Right.
it's those people. It's those people in those positions. If you have to say I'm just doing my job, then you know you're doing
Right.
something ugly.
You know you're
You
doing something
know you're
ugly.
doing something ugly.
Yep. Because that's
I've
your
never heard
excuse.
teacher
Yeah.
of the year say I'm just doing my job.
Right. 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 Absolutely. But
Ooh.
that's credit. That's credit. So
Yeah.
is there a way back? I'll never forget. I think it was one time where I think I was taking care of my boys at the time.
Mm.
I was a single parent at the time, and I had I needed some assistance. I don't know whether it was paying utilities or something, and I went to this community agency here, and I talked to this guy, and basically they didn't have whatever assistance, they were out of funds or whatever, and he said, brother, he said, all I can tell you is just you know have faith and do what you need to do. Do the right thing, get on track. I mean, but basically what he was saying was, at some point you can't depend on uh, this system and the so-called
Mm.
assistance or the so-called. You got to get out of the game. You
Yeah.
have to try to, and like you said, you built what you built based on the strength of your work and your effort, and that became your commitment. And as hard as it may be,
Mm.
as difficult as it may seem, we have got to uh, commit to some sense of ethic in ourselves
Yeah.
and not try to outgame the game,
I'm.
because you can't win it. You
Ooh,
can't win it. It's
you
not
can't.
designed. It's not designed for that. It's
Mm.
designed for you to play so that you will lose. It's almost like one of those monotonous Monopoly or whatever kind of games. It
Mm.
it never ends until you lose.
Yeah.
Um,
And
and
it's
so,
so. Oh, and as especially when I look at the Black community, there's so many
hmm
games like that
hmm
that
hmm
we are susceptible to. And I'm saying susceptible because I think some people just have natural dispositions to make certain decisions, but you know, and this is not to stereotype Black people, but I think we just need to have honest conversations with
yeah,
ourselves, right?
yeah,
So there's
yeah,
certain things that we do as a race, whether rich or poor. So this isn't even
right.
pointing,
True.
this isn't even pointing any hands at a specific social class or trying to be stereotypical. If you scheme, if you
hmm
scam,
hmm
crime,
hmm
credit,
hmm
hell, what is it, being unfaithful,
hmm
like impulsiveness, being excessive. Like there's just
Hmm.
certain cravings that we have as a people, given our society, given where we, how long we've been conditioned in this society. But there's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
gambling. We just talked about that
Yeah.
last year. But there's just
Yeah.
certain games that you just never, ever, ever win. And not only do you not win, the game's not over until it consumes
You're
you.
right. Right.
No one just tells one lie. You know,
Right.
no one just
Right.
gets one credit card. No one just goes to the casino once. No one just has one side chick. Like
Yep.
it's
Yep.
there's just certain games that don't end until you
Right.
are consumed. And credit and finances in the Black community, and it's, I know because I do it too. It's hard to have these honest conversations without your natural programming kicking in of like, well, it's not my fault it's like this. The system is rigged.
Right. Right.
We've
Right.
been here for so long. I ain't choose to come here, and so on and so forth.
Right.
And like
Right. Right.
all of that can be true. All of that can be true, but because two things can be true at the same time, let's just push. I'm just as pissed. I'm just as pissed as you about the conditions in which we are forced to maneuver in. Push it to the
Yep.
side, right? Any and everybody can save. Okay?
Yep.
Any and everybody can save. Saving is not for the wealthy. It's really not. If anything,
Exactly.
it's made for the unwealthy. That's how you get
Right.
wealthy. The
Right.
wealthy people will say all the time that saving a little over time, time's gonna pass anyway. If you
Yep.
save a little over time, that money's gonna build up. That's just the natural laws of life, right?
Yep.
I think we need to have these conversations that you need to save, 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 save. Everyone will always say it's better to be liquid. And I have the same bills. I have the same crazy student loans. I have not such a good debt to income ratio. But one thing about me, like, and it's hard. It's hard. I
Hmm.
understand. You go on Instagram, you scroll, all you see is labels, labels, designer this. You want to be appealing to other people, so you will buy things to make you appealing to
Hmm.
the outside world, outside your house. I get it, and even some of us are trying to make things shake. We're trying to start off this business. We use credit to get that off the ground so we could be entrepreneurs. We could make something for ourselves. I get it. But at the end of the day, you have got to save, not
Yeah.
because you need, and partially because you need to have a lump sum of money or emergency fund, but also because it builds something in
It
it.
does.
It
It's a
builds
mindset.
something
It's a
in
practice
you.
mindset. Yep.
It's a
Hmm.
personal development thing. It's not
Hmm.
a financial thing.
Hmm.
And I think that
Hmm.
if we develop as a people on our own because we want to, because we said so, that will change the game. That will
Yeah.
change everything.
And we've done it before.
Mm-hmm.
We've done it before. It's not like we haven't done it
Yeah.
as a people. I'm often reminded of all of the things. And whenever people say, well, why can't we do, why can't black people do, why can't, we've done it before. It's not like we haven't done it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like we can't do it,
Yeah.
but it really is a mindset. Really is how you develop a positive relationship with money and with wealth, and what it really is. And it is about how you
Mm-hmm.
uh, deny yourself things now for what you want later,
Yeah.
something which has greater value. And again, it's not like you're going to be miserable, during that
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, and I always tell people, I said, it's the thing about whenever you delay or discipline yourself, there's a point where it comes where you get rewarded, and it will be as if all of that time of waiting and suffering never
Exactly.
existed.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
you
it's,
know, uh,
yeah, and I think that's very true. Like denying things to yourself
mhm,
so that you can have it all one day, but at the same time, you're denying yourself certain things until you are ready to
right,
acquire it, right?
right,
So,
right,
because even when I got my first job with you, Mustafa, that was my first big girl job. That salary in my mind My salary
Mm-hmm.
literally doubled in a year. If I had
Mm.
gotten that job 2 years ago, would have been broke, broke,
Right.
broke, broke, broke,
Right.
broke, broke, broke.
Right.
I had to be honest with myself. It didn't matter how much oppression my family had endured over the generations,
Right.
disenfranchisement, or systemic
Yeah.
barriers. It didn't matter how much suffering it was. If I wasn't the person, then I wasn't the
Right.
person. And so
Right.
a lot of times, especially for me, I just realized that I couldn't have certain things because I wasn't ready. And
Yeah.
I tell myself this every single day: you don't get out of life what you want, you get out of life what you are.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah.
not getting what you need, you have to change. If you want
Yeah. Yeah.
things to be different, you have to be different. You don't get to
Yeah.
do, especially with me and my finances, because Mustafa, woo, I
Yeah.
was trying to buy the Apple headphones when we first started this. I couldn't afford. And if I
Right.
had bought that, I don't know, that would have given into a certain energy that may have made it so that couldn't have had a car right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, like I just had to be really honest with myself, Olivia. The reason why you're experiencing success right now and you didn't experience success 2 years ago is because you was on bullshit 2 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
can't blame nobody else
Yeah.
but
It's
yourself.
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And I see the same thing in myself with this position that I have now. Um, I can see how everything else prepared me for this position. And when I can see that, another way of saying that is I wasn't ready yet. If everything that I've
Mhm,
done prepared me for now, it means I wasn't ready for now until that preparation was complete.
mhm,
And so all of the things I kept saying through the years, just give me one school, just give me one place, just give me one organization, just give me one. I'll show them. Let me get one. But I
mhm.
wasn't ready back then. And now they've given me, quote unquote, or they've given us one or two centers out of the several census facilities that they have that we want to transform. So it's like I got my wish.
Yeah.
It happens to be a detention center, for youth and all of that, and it's the worst out of the most challenging of all of them. So I got my wish, but I
Mhm.
didn't get it until I was ready for it. I didn't get it until I got
Yeah.
fully equipped with everything I needed um, to be able to do that. So,
Mhm.
and it's like you said, it's not what you want. You get out of life what you want. You get out of life what you are.
Yeah.
It's true, and you have to be. And this goes with our theme of, fixing it and committing. You have to be. My other favorite saying is, the important thing is this: at any moment, to be willing to sacrifice who you are
Mhm.
for who you might become. And that's really what we're talking about, being able to say, okay, who do I have to be? And I used to say that to my sons. I said, who do you have to be in order to be this billionaire that you want to be?
Yeah.
In order for the success, who do you have to be? Could you be that with you're upset at what's happening with your job right now and you're pissed or whatever? Is that a billionaire attitude?
Yeah.
Are you ready to, and he said, nah, I'm not ready. I said, no, you're not. So you have to think about who you are when it comes to what you want,
Mhm.
because that's what we get. And I think if we could learn that, that's why we as a people
Absolutely.
have, because we not who we, everything we
And
get
my
right now is because of who we
mm.
are.
And mind you,
You
that
know?
that programming that goes into our
Hmm.
mind, just trying to keep a
Hmm.
black man down, like
Yep.
that, them types of things,
Yeah.
system,
Yeah.
what is it, system beating or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's not our
It's
voice.
not. It's
That's
not.
not
It
our
isn't.
voice. And
It isn't.
it's not our voice. Things are unfair. Trying to keep a black man down. I'm just trying to provide for my kids. Blah, like
Yeah.
that is not our voice as a
Right.
people. Our
Right.
voice as a people would tell you, and we're not even, this isn't even rhetoric of like pulling yourselves up by the bootstraps, because pulling when people say pull yourself up by the bootstraps, they just mean like, forget all that trauma, ignore it from now, and just do. Basically, be
Right.
like a work mule. We're not saying
Exactly.
that. We're saying go inward. We're saying
Right.
go inward. Don't don't go anywhere. There's beauty and magic in just staying still. Like I've gotten the best results in my life when shit was hitting
Mm-hmm.
the fan. And
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to decide and solve and maneuver and shift, I sat my black ass down and waited for
Mm-hmm.
the storm to pass.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
honestly. And I think that's something that I've had to do financially. It's so easy in this age to just impulsively shop, impulsively want, to make quick decisions because shit is
Yeah.
always hitting the fan for us, being a
Yeah.
part of the Black community. But sometimes just lay low, stack
Yep.
your money. We say it, lay low,
Yeah.
stack your money, if spirit of isolation, whatever you want to call it. But
Mhm.
um there's just a different energy in being still, being
Being
quiet,
still. Mm-hmm.
watching things shift in you,
Mm-hmm.
tug you in the direction that you need to go in, instead of freaking out and trying to make the best decision. You can't
Yeah.
make good decisions while in a state of panic. It's
You simply cannot.
psychologically
Right.
impossible.
It's impossible. It's impossible. It's really impossible. And I apply that to everything. Like people are saying, who you going to vote for? What's going to happen? What's that? You know what? I'm just going to sit back
Hmm.
and let whatever happen happen,
Yeah.
because this thing has to uh it has to wear itself out. It has to do what it's going to do. I'm not fighting for any cause. I'm not fighting against
Hmm.
anything. I will always promote peace and work for peace and work for good, but I'm not
Hmm.
fighting against anything. I'm going to let it do, um, whatever it's going to do. Um,
That
and
was so
that's
timely. I love Harry Potter and
yeah.
its lessons, even though church folks thought that Satan was coming to earth at the time.
Right. Yeah, but yeah. So with this credit thing, we face it, we admit it, we
Hmm.
look at the rack, what it's done to our lives, and we we make a commitment to have a different relationship, with money and what we do, and we commit to being about who we are, not what we have or not what we want, and
Hmm.
focus on who we are, because that's what the universe is always going to bring us. It's going to bring us exactly who we are. And like you said, we need to go in. um, we really do. We really
Hmm.
do. We need to go in. And that's what the guy was telling me that day when I went for assistance. He said, "Brother, you just need to go in. You can do it."
Hmm.
And I've never gone to a place where they've told me that, where they've talked to me about, who we are. And all the greats have said it.
Yeah.
Marcus Garvey, rise up, you, uh, Elijah Muhammad, know thyself. It's all about who are we.
Hmm.
You know, and it's not just fable or fanfare, and it really is that secret sauce for us as a
Hmm.
people. Just remember who we are. um, and sometimes if we just, like you say, collectively sit, be still, and let the universe do what it's going to do, and we trust in that, um, we'll be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the older I get, because like as a young person, when the OGs talk, it just sounds like a whole bunch of nothing. I'm not even gonna lie,
Yeah.
and maybe it's the Southern accents mixed in too. You just some people just they from the backwoods of the backwoods of the backwoods. You will never fully understand what they're saying. They really do need subtitles, but
Yeah. Yeah.
people say just stack your paper, stay low. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
be still and stack what you got. I don't care if it's $1 a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Just
um,
that exercise will get us to where we want to be. It will. It'll get us to where we want to be.
mhm.
Yeah. So what are we going to
Okay.
journal this week?
So I will say, because at the end of the day, people often buy into credit or into the curse of credit because they want a certain lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think a great journal prompt would be, what type of lifestyle do you want? And
Mm-hmm.
not just, I want money, I want riches, I want to be married, I want kid, like, no. What does your daily routine look like? As you're picturing yourself in that daily routine, who are you? Who do you have to be? Who do you have to be? So what would your dream daily routine look like? And what type of person would you have to be? And notice we didn't say become,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because you may already be, that person 100%,
Yeah. Yeah.
75%, 50%. So who would you have to be in order to have that lifestyle?
Yeah. Okay.
And I
Okay.
think that'll hit the what is it, the nail on the head. I'm not good at I
Yeah.
don't even know why I use these little sayings here, and I'm not good at it. I don't know what I say half the time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I was trying to type that in, but my keyboard doesn't want to work right. But you're basically saying, what type of lifestyle do you want, and who would you have to
Mm-hmm.
be
Yeah.
in order
Who do
to
you have
bring
to
that
be
about?
for that
Okay.
to happen?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh my god!
Okay.
And this episode got me together. I'm not even gonna lie, because I with the whole credit thing, I started to blame the system too, and I had to be realistic,
Yeah.
Olivia. Your
Yeah.
credit report is a
Yeah.
mirror, girl. Like, it's an automated
Yeah.
system. No one did this to you. If
Exactly.
you if you
Exactly.
was on bullshit 6 years ago, then you was just on bullshit 6 years ago.
Yeah. And we want to get out of, and maybe we can expand on this later. We want to get out of uh, this unconscious victimizing state, self
Mm-hmm.
victimizing, that we have no power, we have no control.
Yeah.
Everything is done to us, and there's nothing we can do. We've got to get beyond that. We've really got to get beyond that, because that's exactly where they want us,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that there's nothing that we can do, and
I know.
everything is their fault. And that's not to absolve them of any blame or
Mm-hmm.
culpability in this situation.
But we have to understand they're not part of this conversation. We need to have this
Right,
conversation with us, so we
right,
can we can refer to,
right,
but them don't got nothing to do with this.
right.
We in a
Absolutely,
meeting in our home,
absolutely,
and we need to have real
exactly,
conversations with ourselves.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Okay,
Well,
Olivia.
I know. Thank you everyone for joining us for episode
Yeah.
7 of Generational Curse Words. We hope that you're liking it so far. And we will see you next week.
Okay. Take care.